Hello, people, and welcome to another episode of Friday Night Knives here on A Dose of Drew. I am said Drew, and tonight I am reviewing the Hogue Deka, the modified Wharncliffe in CPM Magnacut. Full disclosure, this is not my first one of these. In fact, I got one of these on an early pre-sale, and I set it down in the gym at my apartment complex. While there was a couple of people in there, they left. My knife was gone. It was out of my stuff. This is desirable, and it's really, really handy. That is not anything. I have not been able to get that back. I talked to the people. They say they don't know. This is not an accusation. It is an explanation that this particular knife, even before people know what it is, they like it. It's definitely a good bit. But let's get right on there. First things first, a little bit of size action here. How big is the Deka? It is about 7 3/8 inches from tip to tail right there. And if we're looking real good, we've got approximately 3 inches, a little over about 3.1. Man, that's 16th. It's about 3.1 inches of cutting edge and about 3 1/4, little under 3 1/4, maybe 3 3/8, 3 5/16, or 3/16. Almost 3 1/4 is just shy of 3 1/4 inches. All right, so there's the raw measurements. Couple of size comparisons here. First things off with the Spyderco's. Ooh, there you are. Is that one of those? Yeah, there we go. Couple of things there. How does it look? It's looking good, right? You don't know, never know. How's it going to happen? Boom, there is the Para 3. This is the lightweight, of course. And as you can see, it is much more closer to the Para 3, though. Almost similar handle opening. Not having this little knob here, having this, it does give you a bit more hand space on here. Though lacking the finger choil, just the sharpening choil, does give it a little bit of extra. A little bit of finger. We'll get into the ergonomics here in a little bit. All right, next bit of size comparison, the Kershaw Blur in M4. For those who wonder, this is one of their special editions. You can see it is only slightly smaller. The length right here, we got a little bit less on the blade, but almost a little bit more. You don't have to worry about angle. It's not that far from the blade, or from the Blur. And of course, not just any leak, but a random leak. And there you are on that one. Slightly, you can just see just in almost every dimension, just slightly larger than the random leak, including cutting length, blade length, and all that stuff. Just that little bit more. All right, so there's those size comparisons. We shall do just a little bit more here. First things first, the Civivi Elementum. Nice little pull in there. You can see how that goes. I did not grab I don't know why. You know what? I can grab the bug out. I didn't grab it for the beginning of this review, but we should really, since it is very similar, put it on the axis lock, put it up next to the bug out. This is the S30V version with titanium scales. Real quick comparison on that. Very similar in size to the bug out, and there's a weight similarity we'll get to in a moment, so there is definitely that. We will bring the bug out back, but of course we have one last size comparison to do here, and that is of course how it compares to my Weenar. As you can see, though slightly longer than the Weenar, there is a girth. There is a thickness benefit to it, as well as just a heft, right? This one feels more solid in the hand. And while the blade, the cutting edge is approximately similar, while the blade length is smaller in there, the tip on this one goes down a little bit, which, you know, it's nice for when you're going the backwards way, but really it makes it weird when you're trying to do certain cuts. So I definitely do like the way the tip on my Weenar it goes to the spots I want it to. And there you can see, it might be just slightly larger than my Weenar, but my Weenar has greater heft. I would almost say girth. But that being said, all right, so one more thing. Here is how it compares. We'll do a little weight. 2.11. This is not the FRN version. But still, weight there, 2.01, right on. Basically the same weight as the FRN version. So slightly heavier here on... Oh, look at that. In the span of just a few seconds, let me see if I can do that again. Okay, so that keeps coming back the same. All right, I'll take that measurement. That's repeatable. 2.08, 2. There is such a small difference, it does not matter. Okay, we'll just go with that. It is a tiny difference. As far as that goes, it is it is less than 1/10 of an ounce. Okay, so yeah, that's that's approximately 40 grams. Well, actually, you know what? Let's do that. Let's do grams, because that's approximately what, 40 grams. Grams. Let's try this one. 60 grams. Let's make 28.4. So 60 grams. So yeah, a little over 3 grams, approximately 3.2 to 3.3 grams difference. And there we go. It's not even zeroed anymore. We'll tally that out. Let's try that again. 59.4. 56.7. So even less than 3 now that we have the zeroing problem removed. Less than 3 grams difference. Okay? That's how much those decimals mean. There's less than 3 grams difference. I can spit on my bug out and make it heavier, okay? Let's just be real about that. A little bit too much KPL or something in here and you're going to get a heavier bug out almost. All right, so that obvious comparison out of the way, that this is really close to the bug out and is an obvious competitor to it. Let's talk about this one, because this is the V2. The previous one had more screws on it, much like the Griptilian, where you have just a whole bunch of screws. They have redone the leverage and the thing. Let's see if I can get it to where you can see inside there. If you can see how those go up, they actually the liners actually come right up to this screw right here, just on the other side of that. So this standoff, those are FRN only. This right here essentially gives you the wedge that goes up here and provides the shelf extra leverage. This point right here, this makes a pretty solid multiple triangle to do it. So you get a really good bit. The FRN, a lot of people may not like this. There isn't the huge scales for this yet, but let's just take a look. Yes, it's flexible. If you're the type of person that prefers the sturdy old oak to the young sapling, that might bother you. Does not me. And if you guys can hear my air conditioning going off in the background, that's because it's 90 degrees and you're just going to have to live with the fact that I'm not sweating while I do this video. All right, so let's get into some of the more specifics and general components of the review here, because we are looking at a really, really good knife. Spoiler alert, I had a hard time pulling this out of my pocket, especially summer when it's hot. Lightweight, really, really good knife. Goes with athletic shorts incredibly well. The silver pocket clip might be nice if it was black or blue. It's something where you can get it in there, but I mean, really, this is the kind of knife. And the blade stock, ridiculously thin, edge thin. Is it a perfect? This is a really, really, really hard thing to get right. And I could be really nitpicky about the way that grind is done. You can see there's some angles that don't exactly match, but that's a hard thing to do, and it won't take much but a quick hand sharpening or something where you take the time to really sharpen one part and sharpen the other to get through. This part is very, very good at what it looks like it's for. You can get up on here and get a really good bearing on it, and this little spot right here is right behind right in front of your thumb. You can really dig down and get some solid work done there. The other thing is the scoring. Being able to, with that angle, I can almost pinch grip this have that hit and my fingers are off, right? I can pinch grip this with my fingers on there, and I can almost do food prep with that angle difference, right? If I'm, let's see if I can, this might help. If I'm doing this and I have that down on there, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's not, oh, there's a longer one. Maybe I can do this. So if I do that, yeah, you can almost see that the angle puts it below my fingers, right? It just kind of runs it out. If I go like there, it doesn't. If it doesn't, that's hard to explain on video, but it really gives you things. You can pinch grip on it if you have to, but the very benefits that this pinch grip would get when you're going through, really, actually, you get, since there's that sharpening choy right there, and you really, only if you're doing really, really detailed work, or if you want to get, you got to do the pick a sliver where you can drop your finger tip in there and that little corner's right on your fingernail. It's not super comfy, but this is going to be detailed work where you should not be doing super heavy work, right? That's detailed work. Everything else that a pinch grip is actually very well represented by just dropping your finger right in front of that little shelf. There's a flat spot there, and the swedge goes down. This right here gives you a tremendous amount of control, directionality, and availability. And this thinner part with the higher grind in the swedge right here, this higher grind angle going up in the swedge gives you a thinner piece. And it also really, I mean, this is what, if you're cutting down cardboard, this is nice to get a cut started, but this right here, that out here is where you get the long slicing, and it is really good at that opening pattern. Going for an envelope. Let's see if I even have one that's unopened around here. Maybe not. Close enough. So, got an envelope. All right, you can do it like this. That's really, really hard to do on camera, you guys. So if I messed it up, sorry. That's the first time I tried it. All right, so yeah, you get a lot. You get the reverse bit, right, where you can go under. You can really kind of almost put the tip and slide. If you're doing like I was just doing with that, you can really just get that tip. It moved with the thin blade stock, high grind, swedge, and just tapering nature of it. While the grind goes out flat, the thing tapers, so it provides a tiny bit of distal taper towards it. Really fantastic in the cutting. The design is classic. I love the drop point. There is a drop point version very similar to the bug out, right? But with nothing even resembling a good Wharncliffe option for the bug out, partly because of design, that back standoff, all sorts of things that go with it. The drop point isn't as preferable to me, and when it comes to general ADC tasks, the modified Wharncliffe, or as many people are trying to say, the reverse Tonto, but the Wharncliffe with a slight amount of belly, or in this case like they have where you have the compound grinds, is one of the absolute best ADC shapes. There's many, you can call it reverse Tonto, but right here the random leak with the sort of modified Wharncliffe there also gives you a lot of the same benefits on a day-to-day basis. You get this really robust tip that goes out. You can get it. It's piercing. When you pierce, it tends to go down instead of up. So there's lots of good things. It really is. And with the belly, you can get some nice arcing cuts as you're moving through your natural motion. The arc does very well. So it's sort of like this is a more, I don't want to say simplified, but it really is a less complex version of that. Or this is a more complex version of the leak style blade on the random leak. Very, very good when it comes to cutting. Very, very good when it hits down. The aesthetics of it, some people like it, some people don't. A lot of people may. I don't mind the FRN. The grooves are really good at giving you grip where you need it, and the smooth part out here really gives you a lot of options when you don't. I don't mind the flexibility of the FRN. It gives it a bit of a toughness, and the shouldering that's in there really takes advantage of the toughness. It may be the weakest part of this, but the fact is, that doesn't make it weak. So there's a lot there, and this modified Wharncliffe Does look kind of cool, but quite honestly, as much as I love the aesthetics of the design, the functionality is really what that's about. It looks cool. It looks even cooler when you realize how well it functions. So that's really, really where it's at. The mechanics, it is hard to fault. It is the Hogue's Able Lock. I have never had a problem with it. There's a little bit of doing it sideways sucks. So you guys may not get to see this, but right, so it works. If I do it where you can see it, I have to really give it a little bit because it's flat, so gravity doesn't work in my favor, but see, like that, plus my fingers on the other side. Once it rolls over, my finger is actually on the axis thing, preventing it from disengaging. All right, so there we are. There's definitely some mechanics that's really hard to fault. Very, very smooth, very, very good. It breaks in right off the bat. And that definitely goes. So noteworthy points on here, and that's where I'm going to get really, really... First of all, bam, CPM Magnacut. This seems to be very well heat treated. I have not had to... This has actually become my day-to-day user. Even with other knives I want to use, I have to take this one out of my pocket. Again, I wear, in the summer, I end up wearing a lot of light clothing. I live in an area where it's very, very warm. I tend to wear light clothing because of the heat. And so lightweight knives like the Bug Out, like the Deka and other, or, Para 3 lightweight, ones that are right in that 2 to 2.5 ounce category, definitely fit the bill for my summer wardrobe and what I would carry a knife on. Not only that, I do live near the ocean. I am a short drive to the beach. I do have a quiet carry drift. I do have a tactile turn rock wall. But honestly, the idea that I could take this to the beach and worry less about corrosion than, say, something like an S30V or anything like that, just from it being there with me, or something maybe happening. Quite honestly, if you want to know, if you ever wonder why, I will probably end up buying a Spyderco Rescue for my beach excursions. And it really has been, I have seen a couple animals on the beach that were either hurt and had to take them. I've seen a stranded seal that looked like it had some netting on there. Quite honestly, you never know what you're going to come across on the beach. And if I'm walking the beach and come across an animal or anything like that may be an end or something, and I happen to be the only one with a knife, if that ever happens to me even once, it would be worth carrying a knife on the beach. It really would for me. If I could ever just once in my lifetime be that guy who happened to be there on the beach with a knife, and I could free an animal from its entrapment and, say, like nets or anything like that. I have seen that happening where other people are taking care of it. I know it does happen. I haven't had to be that person, but having seen it, I know it's possible, and it would work. If ever once in my life it paid off, it would be worth every carry that never did. And when it comes to Magnacut, it has a ridiculously good corrosion resistance rating. It's tough. It's tough like 154 cm, right? You have a similar toughness to 154 cm. You have edge retention similar to 4V or around D2 or so. And then you've got corrosion resistance that at or betters M390. Does it have the exact same edge retention as M390? No. In fact, M390 generally heat treated, all heat treats being equal and optimized for the steel. M390 has some higher edge retention. It also has about a quarter of the toughness and less corrosion resistance. For me, the toughness easily outweighs the slight difference. And I say slight as an EDC measurement. In overall scientific measurement, yes, M390 definitely has more than a slight advantage in edge retention. As a practical sense, it might mean one cardboard cutting session more before I have to strop it. That's really what a practical... If I'm out there cutting 2 or 3 boxes and I've got maybe a 1.5 foot cut on each one, right? I'm looking at 6 feet. I'm looking at 2 meters, approximately 2 meters of cutting every time I go out there. if this starts to get dull after 4 sessions and M390 starts to get a little bit dull after 5, yes, that's a significant difference when you're talking about realistic measurements, and that's approximately a 20 to 25% increase, which is about right from the scientific tests I've seen. On a practical basis, the fact that I'll probably never have to pull a chip, get a chip out of this blade, as well as the fact that I can take it to, say, the beach, overrides that relatively slight, when it comes to my daily carry, edge retention benefit. So as much as I do like M390, it is a good steel. It is definitely a high-end steel, 20 CV, 204P, and all that stuff I include in that same category, even though M390 is a different brand name. When I say M390, I mean that entire class of steels, regardless of the brand name. 20 CV, 204P, M390, replace them all. They're interchangeable for me. For those of you who don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. It's interchangeable for me. It does get a little sick watching them all the time. I really wish there was something like an S60V. Oh, Laren Thomas, if you're watching this, I don't know why you would, but if you are, on your next one, man, can you go from, can you try and get an S60V with higher toughness and a better heat treat capacity? Is there a way you could look at that one? Because honestly, as much as I love this, if you could pop an S60V level of edge retention while maintaining a toughness benefit, if you get an S60V that's twice as tough as S90V or somewhat approaching even S30V in toughness, you'll have three-peated, bro. You'll have three-peated that. You got Magnacut, you got Apex Ultra, and if you can three-peat with the with an S60V variant, where you can look at it and say, you know what, I want to matrix steel the crap out of that one. I'm going to drop it down. I'm going to make it heat treatable. I'm going to pull some of the chromium out, and I'm going to find a way to make that grain structure better while I'm maintaining that same level of stuff. You get somewhere between S60 and S90V, bro, you just three-peated, man, and you're the GOAT. Anyway, enough about knife steel nerds, because as you can tell, I just got real animated and excited about that. Anyway, back to where it's at. So noteworthy points, man, that it's really hard. I mean, other than being an American made, and I'll get to that in just a second, it is American made. Let's make sure that. And once again, this comes out for a serious moment here. Aaron Hogue of the Hogue family that owns Hogue. It's not just knives, it's the guns, it's the stocks. The Hogue Inc. recently passed away. RIP. I recently had my own father pass away. It happens to a lot of people, and that is not an excuse. I say that simply because it's a trying time for everybody, and my heart goes out to other people too that are experiencing this and going through the trials, tribulations, and just outright unfairness that life sometimes hands out. So my heart and mind and everything goes out to everybody that is doing that, and the Hogue family and everyone. So R.I.P. Mr. Hogue, and I'm happy to be able to review this knife. So that little bit being out, I'll continue on. So the intended purpose of this is obviously a lightweight EDC knife. This is something you can use in a pinch for a heavy duty. It's got tough steel. It can take a little salt water. It's pretty much it's not completely corrosion proof, but it's definitely very, very, it's more corrosion resistant than most, especially with the FRN and the 420J2 interior parts, which I believe is what that interior steel is. So you get quite a bit of corrosion resistance with that. So first intended purpose, this is absolutely on the money. In fact, more so in my opinion than the drop point blade. The drop point, or the one that's similar to the right here, to the bug out. As you can see, I'm not sure if the blade stocks are. The blade stocks are pretty much, I don't know if, let's see if, did that, no. Let me see if I can get that angle right again. Yeah, blade stocks are equivalent. So while the drop point is nice, quite honestly, for almost all of my EDC tasks, since I rarely am doing stabbing or puncturing, it's more, unless it's just to get the tip in, and it's to open a box or anything like that. Worn clips like this do more for me on an EDC task basis. It's similar to like a utility and everything, scoring, drawing, like draw cuts. Even if I was to do something like feather sticks, or I was to try and do something where I'm trying to shave, being able to get heavy use while maintaining control over this small area, and there being a distinct angle, it makes that area really easy to control. So it's fantastic on that. The bits of thought that went in specifically to where you would put your fingers, how you would hold it, whether it was comfortable on this knife, are hard to see but instantly recognizable when you pick it up. That's something that's really, really, really hard to show. You can tell, but the moment you pick up the knife, you understand. You go, oh, well, there's that. I can kind of pinch grip, but it feels weird because my hand's on there and it feels like I'm trying to do it. But if I just roll over, bam. I got a thumb for torsional control. I got solid grip. This tucks very easily into the palm of my hand. And the finger can either be, if you need to draw, you can go like that. Or if you just need to push, you can easily do it. I mean, you essentially point at what you're going to cut. It makes it super easy, to make it. You can if you need to bear down on the tip, you can do the fingers. It's very, very useful and well thought out, which brings me to the cost value ratio. At under $130, this is one of the best, absolute best values. It may be up to $130 soon. At the time of this video, it was $127 and change, so approximately $128 plus tax. Just under $130. If I were to round it up, if I was writing this in my checkbook, I spent $130 plus tax, right? So that's approximately what it is. That's like a couple bucks. That's directly competing with the Bug Out and its FRN. There's so much that directly hits, and it's ridiculously well put together. This is high quality fit and finish. I know a lot of people say injection molded plastic. The rest of it is ridiculously well tuned. From the slight pocket that you can see, the inset bits for the receiver pieces for the screws, the blacked out thumb stud, the blacked out hardware. I really wish the pocket clip would have been blacked out too. I really do. That would have been the only thing. It does not match any of the other hardware. The only thing I really wish that this had, and again, the nitpickiness of me saying my biggest complaint about this knife is that the color of the clip doesn't match the rest. It's like, you know what? The carpet doesn't match the drapes. It's so far from a deal breaker, right? Like I bought this knife twice, and it is absolutely one of my favorites. Is it the best overall value in knife out there? No. Quite honestly, if I were to have to pick the overall best value, raw value for knives, it is this knife in D2 liner lock with not quite a choil, but a nice natural little gap. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. It's got a D2. This thing's under $30. Right? The BRK Chirp. It's not me, I'm going to tell you, but it does say RAT, like Randall Adventure Training. Let's see. There you go. Randall Adventure Training, right? So same people that do RAT. BRK Chirp. $30, man. This is cheaper than the Penguin. This is cheaper than other stuff. If you want a flipper, yeah, this thing is a two-handed knife. If you want a flipper, the best bang for the buck out there is going to be the Penguin. You can't beat something that's less than $50, and in many cases under $40, that has something like D2, that has all these steels and is well put together, comfortable. This thing has bearings. Right? There's a lot of 1/4 the price. Like, what more can you say about it? This is 1/4 the price of that. Okay? And you get more than 25% of the knife. That being said, I do like to root for the home team here, and this being American made. Elijah Eichowitz, I believe, Elishowitz, if I'm pronouncing that right. Great design on this, especially this compound grind blade with all the little shells. Fantastic. Cost to value on this is up there. You have something that could quite literally be a knife you have for years, right? This could easily be a knife you carry for years. I know I've had people mention the channel. They have things like a stretch in VG10 they had for 8 or 10 years. Look, at $100 and something bucks, if you were able to keep this knife for 10 years, let's just say $130, 10 years, that's $13 a year that this knife will cost you, plus whatever strop and other caretaking materials. That's ridiculously cheap. Honestly, if it lasts you 5 years, it's approximately 25 to 26 bucks a year. That's like $2 a freaking month, right? You can't put that in on payments like that, but that kind of value in a knife that can really be that is pretty significant. And if Flytanium or other places, or even Hogue, starts coming out with its own version of, secondary market or aftermarket handles for this, if Hogue comes out with they do grips and stuff. Hogue, you guys, man, if you're not, I don't want to say take a lesson from Honey Badger, but I'm gonna, because take a quick look, man. They have those handles, they have stuff. I don't want to say take the business from Flytanium, because obviously Flytanium does good work, and I am a fan. I have multiple Flytanium stuff. All right, I do like Flytanium. I know there's tons of others. They're just an example for it. But before you let too many aftermarket people make their versions, you should too. I would honestly rather buy a Hogue factory replacement scale than otherwise. Just being what it is. All right, so expected bits. This is great. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm at 30 minutes or so here, you guys. I always try and keep these under 20, and I seem to never do it. I seem to just roll into explanations and go over this stuff. Is there bad bits about this knife? And there is a little bit. It does take a little bit of breaking in. There's the FRN that's got some flex to it that a lot of people aren't going to like. It's where there's not the steel liners holding it, it gets flexy because it's, plastic. It's nylon reinforced plastic. If you haven't noticed that women used to wear nylons stockings where they actually had nylon on their legs and that sort of thing, you might start to understand that that's flexible. It also makes it quite tough because it can bend instead of crack, right? So there's some toughness to that flexibility that I think a lot of people really, really, really forget to factor in when they talk about it. So those are probably the worst. Some people don't like the modified Wharncliffe, this little shelf right here that doesn't go out. Like, the styling on it might be a little bit off. And I gotta tell you, if the styling is what puts you off, grab one and try and use it, because the styling is off because they prioritized function. They prioritized the ability to utilize grips to maximize the blade over what could have been just a nice. If they'd have just done a sweet little curve or even just an angle that went down, kept that swedge, and didn't give you this little spot right here that you can actually dig your finger into and pull. It gives your finger some grip. You might not like that aesthetically. If that styling is something that ruins it for you, you're missing out, because the function of it is important. And that's kind of where I want to get. This is a direct competitor to the Benchmade Bug Out. They make no bones about it, and they come in multiple things. It is so similar, you can't help but understand. They aimed for it. Not only that, it's good. In some ways better. I don't want to sit here and talk about whether the lock's better. It's very, very similar. The capabilities of it, a little bit of KPL. For those of you who don't know, I am not sponsored, but my particular favorites. I do not, just to make this clear, I say KPL. I do have other types. If you don't like KPL, I highly recommend Nano Oil. It's one of my favorites before I found KPL. And I definitely, the original KPL is great, even on washers or anything like that. It's a little bit thicker than both the Nano Oil and their new Ultralight. The weights on this is really light. And if you like something that's just a little bit smoother or going to be thick, they do have the KPL Heavy. Works really good on things like D10 balls. That just covers why I always say KPL. Quick little plug. They don't pay me. I've just had really good experience. With that being said, you guys, this is a 5-star knife. It is not the fit and finish that makes it there. It's not going to compete with something like Riot or or Chris Reeves or many other custom, where the attention to detail is just the fit and finish isn't going to. But here's the thing. It's very, very well engineered, precision made. I have yet to see a problem. I have experienced on a Hogue knife spring issues. Reached out to Hogue. They totally saw it. They saw the picture and they said, yeah, that's probably going to be a problem. And they sent me, I had one spring that was bad. They sent me 2 new ones. I have absolutely no qualms with that. That is exactly how it's supposed to be. Sometimes things get through. You never know. You have hundreds or not thousands of those little springs. By the time it gets out there, corrosion started to habit over time. That will weaken. It'll break. It happens. You can't have 100% quality and a low price. You just can't. So that happens. They replaced it. They don't only replace it. They gave me a full set, which came in 2 different bags, which I was surprised. So the one problem I haven't had it with a Benchmade, but I did have it with a Hogue, very similar on the Omega springs there, and they fixed it in less than within a week. We had done all the talking, they got it out there, and then again in less than 7 shipping days, I had the new spring. So kudos to Hogue, and I have never had a problem with their customer service or honestly their products. I don't consider the Omega springs their products. They're something they put in their product. They may make them. I doubt it. That being said, again, 5-star knife. It's really, there's faults you can find in it, but for what it is, at the price that it is, this is a knife you could have lifelong. There's a lot of knives that you could easily argue in a similar price range, right? That could also be lifelong knives. I'm not going to lie. And pardon the shredded carbon fiber, but if this had the blue FRN on it, which I don't think I have hanging out right now, it would match a little bit better. They're all approximately close to the same. This one in BD, the lightweight in BD1N is easily cheaper. But quite honestly, you just want to try and find the ones at about $140 that have different steels. You can get, I believe there's even some that you can get S90V, M4, XHP. There's all sorts of stuff on here at around the 140. So really, that's what I'm comparing to, not the BD1N. I'm comparing to the dealer specials and stuff that are around the 140 mark. Generally speaking, the Spyderco Paramilitary 3 light, or Para 3, not paramilitary, that's just the 2. Para 3 lightweight. The better steels than BD1N tend to be about 140. And that's a ballpark. It's not an exact number. Benchmade's bug out in the FRN tends to be about 130. Hogue in the FRN tends to be about 130. So there's a lot of value there for it. It is right in the ballpark. It is fighting in a very competitive area right there and doing a damn fine job about it. Again, I am going on about this knife. There's other knives out there, but really, this one it does so much so well, from lightweight to fitting in shorts, going in a hiking jeans, going into a pocket. I've traveled with it. It can get in the car. I've gone to the gym with this in my shorts. I actually forgot it was in there when I went to the gym. I've gone to the beach. This knife easily goes everywhere, and I don't have to worry about corrosion. I don't have to worry about weight. I don't have to worry about it printing or swinging around in my pocket. It's just there. Once again, you guys, 40 minutes. 8 minutes ago, I was going to finish this up, so here I am. Highly recommended. 5 stars. I really could go on about the value to price ratio on this. There is tiny little nitpicks, the edge geometry, because of the, let's see if I can keep it in line. Yeah, because of the, there we go. You can see right there, there's a little bit of unevenness. Oh boy, that's gonna, yeah, there we go. See, you see how the shine right there? All right, there's an unevenness in both the width and everything like that. That's a nitpick on the edge. It has absolutely no bearing on the apex. I would almost gather that this, if this was hand done, I would almost say that this is someone who kind of messed it up and then came back and fixed it. And it works. And it is, oh yeah, it looks like I shaved my hand already once today. Let me see if I can, if you guys can see this or not. I'm trying to get it where it is hair popping. And I'm sweating my butt off. Let me see if I can do it in a spot that'll show up better. See. For those of you who don't like looking at hair, tough tooties, cuties. All right, so there we go. 5 stars, highly recommendable. I don't edit my videos, so there's 40 minutes. It's really, really, really hard to not say great things about this knife. And to all the people at Hogue and the Hogue family, again, my condolences and my heart reaches out to you for your loss. But I hope that you guys are able to get through it and continue to really just bless the knife community with a lot of great products and a lot of great service. So thank you guys for all that. Again, many condolences, and for everyone else, if you have a chance, buy this knife. It's worth it. And so, that being said, this has been Friday Night Knives with the Hogue Deka in CPM Magnacut. And this has been Friday Night Knives with, again, Friday Night Knives with a dose of Drew. I am said Drew. Go ahead and take this video, watch it twice, comment as much as you like, be mindful of side effects, and remember to be subscribed. This has been your dose of Drew. You guys have a great Friday night.